All right. Good morning. Hi, Mikaila.
Hi, how are you, Ashley?
I am good. Thank you. I'm so glad that you joined me today. For everyone watching, my name is Ashley. I am the growth manager at Empire Home Loans. I am also on the committee of the Women's Mortgage Network. And I am super excited today to have you on, Mikaila. Mikaila and I connected a couple weeks ago. I actually knew her husband and worked with her husband for a couple of years. Mikaila is new to the mortgage industry and newly licensed and has just recently joined her husband's team. And when her and I connected, I would say we had an immediate connection with each other. I think we kind of hit it off. And I truly enjoyed learning about you and learning about your story and the journey that brought you here today to launch your career in the mortgage industry. Now, knowing your husband as well, I think I've had a little more insight into what makes you you, Mikaila. And the reason why I wanted to have you on the show today is because of who you are, the lessons that you've learned that have brought you into this professional development that you are experiencing today, and why you're here today and why you decided to join the mortgage industry. And I want everyone to just get to know you a little bit better. You're somebody that I believe is going to be a powerhouse in this industry. And I think that you are definitely somebody to watch as you continue to grow. So with that, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ashley. That was really nice. I really appreciate all of your support through this. You were the first person that I spoke to in this industry, and I remember when I was first starting out, I hadn't even passed my exam yet when we spoke. And my husband was like, you have to talk to Ashley. Every time I speak to Ashley, I get off the phone with her and I'm like, I feel like I could conquer the world. And so I just want to tell you that because it's true. When I got off the phone with you, I also felt like that. I was like, wow, she really has a gift for bringing people up and like motivating people. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, my name's Mikaila. I am very new to this industry, actually. I was just licensed about 2 months ago, and I kind of fell into this industry by happy accident, I would say. And it was one of those things that kind of felt like the worst possible thing that could happen at the time. And just like so many of those things in my life, it turned out to be the best possible thing that could have happened. I don't know if you can relate with that, but when you have something that feels like, like catastrophic, and you're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make it through this? That was like one of these events for me. And so my story is that I had a job for 8 years, and built my way up in that company. I started local, and then at the time I started running the whole company for this woman. It's a family run company. It was a pool fencing company, and I went on maternity leave. And prior to that, we had a discussion that I was going to come back after maternity leave, and I was going to work from home. And that was really important to my husband and I. It's our second marriage, and it's both of our second child. So when we decided we wanted to have a baby, it was really important to us to have a different experience this time, being older. And we talked about, doing it right. And one of the things that was important for me was to be more active in my daughter's life. And so at this particular job, I had a conversation with the owner, and the plan was I was going to work from home. And everyone was on board with that plan. And it was about 2.5 weeks after I had my daughter, she changed her mind. And it was a discussion where I was talking about what's it going to look like to come back, right? And we were making a plan. And long story short, she was like, I want to give you a longer maternity leave, but the plan is I need you to come back in the office. I need someone who's going to be here full time. And that's her prerogative as the business owner, right? And so Eric and I put our heads together, and I started studying for safe exam questions. And I was like waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the morning. And I failed my test the first time and I was very disappointed. I had studied all but 1 week, right? And I was like, I can't believe I failed. So the expectation was really high. And I kept trying and we were both determined because honestly, this job is everything I never knew I always wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is it's challenging, and there's also a certain amount of freedom as well, so that I feel like I could take all of the experience that I've had in my life and put that toward this now, and I can also be a mom at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I passed my safe exam. We were really, really excited. I even posted something on the Women's Mortgage Network. I was so happy. And now, here I am, and I'll be the first to say I'm so new. I don't really consider myself an expert at all yet. I'm just soaking everything in right now and trying to learn as much as possible. Very lucky that Eric has the experience that he has in this industry, so I'm really leaning on him for the training aspect. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in this industry.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I know me personally, I 100% can relate to that. I also got into this industry by accident. I don't know that I've met anyone that got into mortgages on purpose. I don't think anyone was going through their college careers thinking to themselves, I'm going to be a mortgage loan officer when I graduate, or whatever was going to come next for their career. I don't know that anyone ever had the plan to be a mortgage loan officer, but we all somehow wound up in the industry. And so it was a similar journey for me as well. I got pulled in and I loved it and I stayed. And when you talk about your value system at home and how important it is for you to be present with your kids, I can absolutely relate with that. And I think that will resonate with so many women in this industry. And I completely agree with your sentiment that this job, this career in this industry has afforded me the lifestyle that I'm able to provide for my family. And I'm also able to be present with my family as well. And when women approach me and they are either getting into the industry or they're considering a career change within the industry, the number one thing it always comes down to is I just want to be able to have, I think work-life balance is kind of a facade. I don't know that that really exists. I think at any given time we can tip one way, we can tip the other way. But to have the ability and the latitude to put your efforts where your efforts need to be, maybe this is a week where I need to be more present at home. I've got sick kids or we've got conferences where I'm dealing with that this week, with minimum days in school conferences. And then you have the weeks where it tips where you're like, okay, I need to give a little bit more at work, but you're able to find balance, I think, on a much bigger scale in this industry. And that has truly been so rewarding. And I love that that has been your experience so far as well. And I also love hearing you talk about just your first initial, I guess when you're transcending into this job, your experience initially has been nothing but positive. And I think that brings such a fresh perspective to the community that we're in. And one of the reasons why I wanted you in the Women's Mortgage Network is because like a lot of us have been doing this for many, many years. And while we love this career, sometimes we lose that fresh perspective of why we're doing this in the first place. And I think that you are that voice to just inject that, and hearing you and seeing you talk about it right now just really fulfills me and makes me super happy. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I want to clarify that just because this industry gives me the opportunity to be here and be present for my daughter, that it's not without difficulty, right? Because it's really challenging. I'll be honest, it's really been hard trying to juggle both. But I think that what's really cool is at my previous job, I remember waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30, if I wanted to have the opportunity to have like a moment to myself where I could go to the gym and work out. And then we got to get the kids out by 7:30, make sure she's fed and she's ready to go to school. And then I take her to school and then I go to work and then I go pick her up. And by the time I get home, it's time for dinner. And by the time dinner is done, it's
Your
6:30. It's all over, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this where you feel like you're in a rat race, and you're
Yeah.
trying to be all of these things and wear all these hats, but it's like just the amount of time that I spent away from my home, then to get back to my home, it just felt like I was living my life for someone else,
Completely.
all the time.
It's an uphill marathon a lot of days, especially when you have little kids. Like when you've got young ones. Mine are starting to turn the corner. They're a little bit older now, but there's still so much responsibility between all their extracurriculars and schools and things like that. But it can absolutely feel like you're running an uphill marathon. And when you are constantly having to shift from home to rushing the kids off to school and then getting into the office and then working and then coming back, you're integrating into different facets of life that we balance as mothers, and fathers do it too. This isn't just a mom versus dad conversation, but a lot of it does fall on the mothers. And you think about, the emotion of the house is created by the mom. If you think about who did Christmas, who puts up all the holiday decorations, who evokes all that emotion in the home, there's a lot that falls on us. And when you're having to constantly shift and bend and move between all these different areas of our life, it can become super overwhelming. And so to have the ability to, like you said, be at home and be a little bit more in control of your own schedule. Now, I know as well as everybody else does, sometimes the day runs us, sometimes we run the day, but to be able to have the ability to be at home and for you to feel like you have found some sense of that balance that you feel like you were longing for, to me, it's the number one thing why I do what I do. It's to be able to stay present within my own household.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And the other cool thing about being in this industry now is being able to feel like I could be a part of helping someone else purchase their first home. It's really funny because so my husband, he does like the trickier stuff. He likes non-QM. He works with a lot of investors. And so when I came on board, everyone was joking. They were like, okay, Mikaila's going to come on board and be that other piece, and she's going to want to do the vanilla, like conventional loans. And of course I come on board and I'm like, well, I kind of want to do like the down payment assistant ones. I want to help the people that are like, I feel like I could never get a home, because that's like, that's the thing that inspires me. Because when I first bought my house, it wasn't even on my radar. It was like so far away from what I thought was in the realm of a possibility for me. I was a single mom, and I remember having a conversation with my mom, and she was like, you should just call a mortgage broker and you should see where you're at financially and see if it's even possible. And I remember the woman who helped me out to buy this house, she was so incredible and she was so uplifting. And she was real with me as well, and I trusted her completely. And I ended up buying this house, and the way I felt after that, just I felt so proud of doing it on my own. It hasn't been like a super easy road for me the whole way through, and so it was a big monumental moment for me when I bought this house. And to be able to be a part of that for someone else, that's really special to me and really close to my heart. So I hope that I can do that for families too.
Yeah. And if you keep that at the core of your why we do what we do, you always will. That will always be the reason why you fight so hard for your clients. For me, it was a bit of a different experience. Honestly, just recently with my new purchase of my house, it was a terrible experience. I mean, just from start to finish, it was awful, to the point where I was having to do my own loan with the loan officer. We bought a new build, so we were stuck using that lender from the new build, their corporation. And I was coaching her through the transaction, coaching her what to do, how to do it, where to go find documents, like just a mess. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And that kind of gave me a renewed sense of, I do not want another consumer to feel this way. I know more than the average homeowner when it comes to the process of obtaining a mortgage and what has to happen in order for you to get that mortgage. most consumers don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and they don't know any better. They don't know how to fight for themselves, because if you don't know what you don't know,
No,
how
they
do you
don't.
move through that, right? So for me,
Mhm.
very similar, but just a different perspective, right? It was just a terrible experience that I don't want anyone to have to go through that. I just think that at minimum, when you purchase a house, fear should be eliminated from somebody when they're buying one of their largest purchases of their life. And it goes so far
Mhm.
beyond just the financial aspect of it. You know, you start thinking about where my Christmas tree is going to go, and the kids are going to play in the court, and how we're going to decorate the house, and what color rooms they want. So it's so much more than just a financial decision. It's an emotional one. And for you, having such a great experience right out of the gate, buying your first house, a lot of consumers can resonate with that. And then there's a lot that can also resonate with, I had a terrible experience. I never want to buy another house ever again. And we get to change somebody's perspective and narrative of their experience. You get to continue to provide great service, and you also get to be the trusted resource for somebody that is scared, terrified, have been told no. I love the fact that you are willing to go and work with first-time home buyers, and that you want to take the down payment assistance and really run with that. We get to find these different niches in this industry, and we get to decide what our business looks like, which is really cool, and provide that service to people, and provide it in a way that makes them feel excited, happy, and comfortable. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, and who knows exactly where this road's going to lead me. That's just kind of where my interest and my heart is. But I'm open to everything. Like I said, right now I'm just kind of learning as much as I possibly can, because I really did just I had no experience at all in this industry. And so right now I'm just like a little sponge,
Yeah,
because
and
knowledge is important.
nobody comes in. The tests that we take really don't prepare you for doing this job. It does not prepare you to be a mortgage professional. It's all on the job learning. And the cool thing is we can always pivot. And if you're done reinventing yourself, I would say that's probably when it's time to get out of the industry. If you can continue to pivot, if you can continue to reinvent yourself, if you can continue to learn, I mean, we've got industry veterans that are still learning and soaking up new knowledge every single day. So you are always going to be a student of your craft. And if you can do that, you're going to be successful, as long as you can continue to pivot. And I want to go back a little bit, if we can, because this is a part of your story that I don't know too much about. You used to be in the recording industry, right? Your husband has said that you are the Robin Sparkles of your day.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. He actually did call me that when we first started dating. I cannot believe he told you that. That's so funny.
I want to know that part of you, and that part of your life, and how that has shaped who you are today, and just the experiences of being in the recording industry.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny. I did grow up in the entertainment industry. I was one of those kids that you hear about, like child stars, and they're talking about their childhood. I really was like a 3-year-old child that stood in front of a mirror with a hairbrush, singing at the top of my lungs and telling my mom that I was going to be famous someday. Like that definitely was my story. And I grew up in Oklahoma, and I don't know if you remember the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah.
Okay. So my church was, it was like 2 blocks away from the Murrah building. And that event really touched my life. I was 8 years old at the time. My dad was supposed to be in that building that morning. He had a meeting at 9 a.m. It happened at like 9:02 a.m. and he called in late, and he lost everyone that he worked with. And there was a little YMCA across the street from the Murrah building, and there were children there at the time. And there were a lot of kids that not only did they lose families in that building, they were killed. So my church actually, and at this time I had never really done any singing other than just, my family, really just singing for like family reunions and stuff like that. But at the time, my mom was really involved with the church choir. And what they did was they held this memorial service for all of the children who were injured or who lost families. And my mom let them know that I had a song that I wanted to sing. and I sang this song called Not Too Far From Here. It was really the first time that I sang in front of anyone. And this was a really long time ago. So this was like pre like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. So there was a newspaper article that was written about me, and they asked me to sing into this telephone. It was like a rotary telephone, and they were like, "We want you to sing this song that you sang at this memorial service, because we heard a lot of people say that this touched them, and they heard your voice and it was very healing." And so they had me sing this song into this telephone, and you could call this 1-800 number. And if you call this 1-800 number, then you could hear me singing this song. And it didn't really feel like a big deal at the time, but I guess there was this, her name was Carol Kaufman, actually. She was the executive producer for Good Morning America at the time. She was in town, and she was just covering like so many media were at the time. She was covering the bombing, and she read this newspaper article about me. It only listed my first name. It didn't really give any other information except, there was this child, she sang, and here's this number that you can call. She listened to the hotline, and she immediately started to find me. She called, and my mom happened to be answering phones on this morning for our church, because we just did a lot of volunteer work at the time. And I happened to be with her that day out of school. I had some sort of routine doctor's appointment. And Carol called, my mom answered the phone, and she said, "Hey, we want to come to your church and interview your pastor." And, my mom set the whole thing up. At the very end of the conversation, she said, "And also there was this little girl who sang a song called Not Too Far From Here. I'm looking for her. Her name is Mikaila, but I can't find any information. Do you happen to know who this is?" And my mom said, that's my daughter." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I found you. We've been looking for you. We want to see if we can fly your daughter to New York City tomorrow morning to sing on Good Morning America." So she came and she found me. I was like, playing in the kids' room or something. And she asked me if I wanted to fly to New York. And of course I said, yes, absolutely. I would love to do that. And, after that, it was just a whirlwind. My mom quit her job, and we didn't really I didn't do a whole lot of auditions or anything. People just kept calling us. And it really felt at the time like a calling, if that makes any sense. It was a lot of like churches and charity events and things like that I was singing for. And then by the time that I was 12 years old, I got signed to a major recording label called Island Def Jam. And then it kind of changed after that. It got bigger, and I was able to do some really amazing things. Like I got to sing at Carnegie Hall and for presidential inaugurations, and I opened for Britney Spears, like just some really cool things that happened. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and obviously, I wasn't like famous or anything.
I mean, girl, you opened for Britney
yeah,
Spears.
it was kind of amazing.
I love how nonchalant
yeah, it
you
was
are about the whole entire thing.
Well, it's easy to be nonchalant because it was like it feels like a different lifetime ago, and it was like a brush with fame, right? It never really got really big. And what's funny about that is I was reading this book, It Starts With Why, and I was like really, really into this book because what it talked about was like kind of, you finding what you want to sell, but it kind of starts with you're selling yourself, and you have to really have something that people can connect with. And in the beginning, my why was I wanted to sing because it made people feel good, right? It helped people. And when I got signed, the guy who signed me, his name was Jeff. He actually signed Britney Spears over at Jive Records, and I was his first artist that he signed at Island Def Jam. And so of course he came over and he had this blueprint for success. And he was like, she's going to be a pop star and she's going to sing, we're going to have dancers with her. And I got to tell you, I'm not a dancer. I'm really not. Like, all I wanted to do was stand there and sing Celine Dion. Okay.
Yeah.
And at 14 years old, he had no idea how to market that. And so we have this kid who's like 14 singing songs that were way too old for me and trying to dance. And I think that everybody was just kind of like, nobody got it, and it didn't work out. There was very little singing involved. It was more about how you looked. It was more about how you danced. And like, I had a nutritionist by the time I was 12, and, they were like, you need to get a nose job and you need to lose weight and you need to do this. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was definitely a wild experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Don't get me wrong,
No,
but
I'm
it was,
sure you learned a ton through that time. And that's incredible. I am a little mind blown because you're so humble and so nonchalant about that part of your life. But that's wild, crazy, crazy story.
yeah, yep. After that, I really didn't have any coping skills at the time. There was, it, I don't know, like, I have these thoughts sometimes where, and I'm sure everybody has these thoughts where you're like, I'm not enough. I'm not pretty enough. People are going to find out that I'm not smart enough, or all of this stuff. And we have those thoughts inside of us. And at the time, I didn't have any sort of way to deal with those things. And there were also so many people telling me those things as well. So they were just, I actually, the proverbial, like, turned into an alcoholic after that and went through a really dark time. And that was something that I drank over for years and years. And so I've definitely learned so much about self-acceptance and about persevering and, not being something that I'm not to try to please others.
Yeah. Yeah. And during our first conversation, we obviously didn't go this deep, but that is definitely something that I got from you, was just your authenticity and just how genuine you are. And the only way that people can become that way is because they truly, you either go through something and you're able to come out of the other side and be honest with yourself about the journey it took to get you there and the things that happened to get you there. And as a child, you mentioned you didn't have the coping skills. Well, of course you didn't. You were a kid, right? You were just a child at the time. And so when I spoke to you the very first time, you just have this authenticity about you that you can't fake. You can't fake that. And you're so genuine. And knowing that this is where you came from to where you are today, I wish we had more time, because I want to keep going and just learn so much more about you. And I know that there's women that are going to connect with your story in some fashion. Maybe it wasn't the same steps that you took, but we've all got a past that doesn't define us, but it has shaped us into who we are today as adults. And I remember when you and I first started talking, I told you, whatever you're comfortable with, share with people, because you have a way of connecting and you build that trust right away because you are so authentic and you're so genuine. And now hearing that what is your story and your past, I find you so fascinating, Mikaila, and I am just in awe of who you are today and how you have built yourself and kind of had this like real full circle moment, right, in your life, that now you get to decide what comes next for you, not somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a really nice compliment. That's probably one of the nicer things anyone said to me. So I really do appreciate that.
Well, you are welcome. I'm so happy to know you. So to start wrapping this up a little bit, you are now a part of the Women's Mortgage Network. You're in the group. You're getting to know women in the industry. You're getting to use your voice too, as well. And I think oftentimes people think, well, I'm brand new. I don't have much value to bring just yet, but you 100% do, through your fresh perspective, through the new things that you get to learn things through a different lens. A lot of us are already set in our habits and how we've been doing things. And you're coming into it at a time where it's all fresh, it's all new to you, and you have the ability to also impart that on us. Like, hey, stop doing it this way. Look at it from this perspective, right? Or let me show you a perspective that I learned, by somebody who doesn't have all of this past experience. So I get to learn it brand new and fresh. So one, I have two questions in closing.
Okay.
One, joining the Women's Mortgage Network, has this already impacted you in your business? And two, what would be any advice that you would give to a woman who is either just now getting her license or she is brand new into her mortgage career? What advice would you give her as somebody who's also starting out and learning a brand new career?
So the first thing, to answer your first question, the Women's Mortgage Network has been extremely helpful and also refreshing and surprising. So I had some people warn me that, this is, it's kind of cutthroat, this industry, and I'm not really like that at all. Like, so I kind of was like, I don't know what I was expecting, but my experience has been the total opposite. Every single woman that I have come into contact with has been beyond helpful. Like, there's a woman at GTG that goes out of her way to do video calls with me, and she'll walk me through what the loan process is, and she'll spend hours on the phone with me. And so what I've learned through being a part of this network is that that's not true. The women are very helpful, and I love that we build each other up in this community. And sometimes I'll just go on there and I won't necessarily say anything, but I'll just scroll through and see what people are talking about, and see the kind of language that they're using, and even just the motivational posts that are on there. So I found that very helpful. And although it hasn't helped me necessarily in my business yet, it's still, I'm only like 2 months in, so there's a ton of time. And then the second question that you asked me, I would say, try to connect with as many women as possible. I'm lucky to have my husband who's already in this industry, but I think it's really important for women to stick with women, kind of. I don't mean anything against men. I just believe we have a different experience, right?
100%.
So anytime that I've had someone offer to have a call with me or show me something, I have said absolutely yes, I will do it. And so my advice would be to try to make as many connections as possible with other women in this industry, and then also to just say yes to everything. I was really nervous to come on this podcast today. I was like, what do I have to say to offer these women who have been in this industry for so long? And the truth is, like, I just, I approached it and with, I don't know how to say it. I said a little prayer before, and I was like, I'm just going to try to be the best version of myself and just be authentic, and not pretend like I know anything, because I really don't, not yet.
Well, and it's so much more than that. It's the community and the connectivity is really where the magic happens. And knowing that we all have each other's backs. We all go through different yet similar struggles every single day. And you nailed it, that women just have a different journey than men. We just do. That there's no getting around that. It's not good or bad, but we just different experiences. We just have a completely different walk than our male counterparts. And I know some amazing males in this industry, your husband being one of them. I have worked for amazing males in this industry. I have been very lucky to have been very supported by both women and men. But when it comes down to it, we just have completely different experiences. And when you have a community like the Women's Mortgage Network, where everybody shares the same mission, and that is just to uplift and inspire our fellow female colleagues, that's where it all happens for me. Some of my very best friends have come out of the mortgage industry. The women that I am the closest with are mortgage brokers as well. And you just cannot replicate a community like that you can fall back on. I don't care how much experience you have, how much knowledge you have of underwriting guidelines and regulations and all that stuff. You cannot replicate the community around you that's going to rally for you, wrap their arms around you, and push you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I am so excited you're here, Mikaila. I am excited to continue to get to know you better and just deepen a friendship with you. And I'm excited for the women in our community as well to get to know you a lot better. And I'm really looking forward to see how the next year takes shape for you in your career.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's really been a pleasure. And I'm also very excited for this next year and just to get to know some of you women better as well.
Awesome. So for anyone watching, where can we connect with you? Social media, where can we find you?
So I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram and also LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. All right, Mikaila. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ashley.